Okay, welcome to the Kirby Bauer procedures for lab 2. So for this lab, what we're doing is we're spreading E. coli and staph, and we're exposing them to 3 different known antibiotics and then 3 essential oils in order to see how the antibacterial activity differs between the 2. Okay, so what we're gonna start off by doing is splitting up our plates into 7 sections. Down the middle, 1, 2. You get 7 equal sections. So on my second plate, I'm doing the exact same thing. Oh, I did it wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 2 7 sections. Then I'm labeling the inside part of the plate in order to be able to see the growth. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. On this plate, I'm going to put E. coli, so I will label it E. coli. And on this plate, I'm going to put staph. E. coli is a gram-negative bacteria, and then staph is a gram-positive. All right, and we'll talk about what that means in class. All right, so now I'm going to begin. I have my 2 bacteria here. I have a micropipette that's set to 130 microliters, and I will get my tips and spread the bacteria. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to open my plate. I'm not going to talk over it because I don't want it to get bacteria. This is the plate that I labeled staph, so I'm gonna get my staph, open it, pick up the bacteria, place it in the center. Okay, and then closing the plate to prevent contamination. Can you pass me the bar? All right, and then now to spread the E. coli plate, I open it, I get a new tip to prevent contamination, and then I dispense the same amount of bacteria into the center of the plate. Okay. And then the tip goes into biohazard. All right, now that the bacteria is on both of these plates, I have to spread it. So in order to do that, I need this. This is fire. It's basically gonna sterilize my material, so I make sure that it's only bacteria being spread onto these plates. So I'm gonna get my lighter, place it over here, light the flame, and then I prepare to spread. So this is my spreader. It's used to evenly distribute the bacteria. I make sure the spreader has no remnants of alcohol to prevent a fire. And then I sterilize it a few times and I let this cool down without waving it around to prevent contamination from the germs in the air. All right, I'm gonna spread my E. coli last. I'm gonna start with my staph. I'm gonna test to see if the spreader is still too hot by tapping it at the edge of the agar. I hear no sizzling, so I know I'm good. And I'm spreading that bacteria evenly, okay? Making sure it's all over the plate. Capping it, and then with the spreader I just used, going into the ethanol. Okay, now I'm spreading my E. coli. So same process, letting this drip to prevent a fire, heating it up, letting it cool down, and then making sure it's not too hot before I spread. All right, there is no sizzle. Making sure I'm spreading it evenly and that all the bacteria gets all over the plate. And then closing it. This bacteria sit for 5 minutes to make sure it's dried down. And now I'm gonna actually place the antibiotic treatments onto it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pick my plate to start with. I'm gonna start with staph because it's been sitting for the longest. Okay, so I'm gonna start applying my antibiotic treatments onto here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a blank disc and I'm gonna place my control variable, which is the water. So I'm gonna grab my disc. First thing I have to do though is make sure my tweezers or my forceps are sterilized by passing them over the flame a few times and letting them cool down. I'm making sure that what I'm placing onto the disc is DI water and not ethanol. And then I'm gonna pick up a disc. And then, oh, well, that's good enough. I'm actually going to the other blank disc too, we're gonna ignore that. All right, I'm placing it on the pie that's labeled 1 and then pressing it down lightly. Okay. Once that is done, I'm capping it and I'm putting my forceps or my tweezers back into the ethanol. All right. Next, I'm going to look at my task sheet and I'm going to see the order in which the next antibiotics have to be placed. So up on the board, I have them labeled. My staff plate, grabbing my forceps, sterilizing them a few times, and then grabbing my ampicillin disc and placing it on the pie that's labeled 2. Done. All right, up next on my pie labeled 3, I'm gonna put tetracycline. So I'm grabbing my tetracycline, making sure my forceps are sterilized. I already did that. And then picking up a plate and putting it on that pie labeled 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Sterilizing my forceps in between. Going into streptomycin, and this is gonna go on my pie that's labeled 4. So picking it up, pie labeled 4. And then for my next few slices of my pie, it's going to be different types of essential oils to see how that would combat bacteria compared to known antibiotics. So I'm getting my blank discs back out and I'm placing them onto my plate. So in order to do this, the first one that's up next is number 5. It's going to be almond oil. So I'm picking up a blank disc. I have to be a little bit more careful with these because I will be dipping it into the oil. Okay, I'm grabbing sweet almond oil, opening up the essential oil jar, and then dipping that into the oil, making sure it's not too coated, and placing it on pie number 5. All right. Sterilizing my forceps in between. So once again, it's gonna go into ethanol and then over the fire. It will catch on fire and that is okay. Oh. Up next, my oil is gonna be tea tree oil. So I'm opening that vial, grabbing my next. There was an incident. The tea tree oil disc has been put off camera. Okay. Last essential oil that we're gonna do is eucalyptus. So same process. Grabbing a blank disc, opening up my eucalyptus. Don't show them this. Dipping my disc into the eucalyptus, making sure it's not too coated, and placing it on my last pie. The goal with these is to make sure they're placed a little bit more centrally, so then we can see the zone of inhibition clearly. All right, so then I'm gonna repeat this process for my staff off camera. And then essentially what we have here is E. coli tested with 7 different antibiotics. This is gonna be incubated for 7 different antibiotic treatments. This is gonna be incubated for 24 hours. And then when we come back to lab the following week, we will see results. Essentially what should happen is the E. coli should be able to grow, and wherever it's killed off, a ring will form with no growth, and we'll be able to see what that means. Right, and that was all of the lab procedures for this week. Before we put the plate into the incubator, we're gonna go ahead and parafilm the edges to make sure it is completely sealed off. Okay. So to do that, I'm essentially stretching out the parafilm, starting at the edge and making sure it is all covered.